So we're going to start working with triangles, and we're going to be investigating the angles inside a triangle. So at this point, I'm hoping that you have your block note in front of you and that you're ready to fill some stuff in. Now, on your block note, it does have the sum of angles in a triangle. And I know that most of you must know that when you add up the angles inside a triangle, it gives you a certain amount. So we're just going to kind of play around with that. I'm going to create just a regular triangle here. So I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do here. So here's a regular triangle, and if I calculate the angles within the triangle, it gives me all the angles here. So we have 49.87, 75.58, and 54.55. If we go ahead and add up all of those angles, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy paste this, and we're going to go ahead and add those. I want you to take your calculator out. Okay, take your calculator out and add up those angles for me. So let's go ahead and do that. So all we're going to do, again, like I mentioned, is take 75.58 degrees plus 54.55 degrees plus 49.87 degrees. By now, someone should probably have the answer. If we do add up all of these angles, it should give us 180 degrees on the dot. Because it doesn't matter what kind of triangle you're in, if you add up all the inside angles, notice that these ones are the inside of the triangle. If you add up all three inside angles, it gives you 180 degrees. So what I want you to write on your actual block note is I want you to write the following example. So go ahead and draw this triangle. Write down the angles. I'll write them down a little bit bigger. And then I want you to add the sum. So the sum of all three of these angles, I want all of this written down. Once you have all of this written down, we're going to move on to looking at different types of triangles. So I'm going to go back to my example that I had here. What happens if I move these around? Okay, and I create different kinds of triangles. So I'm just going to move it around here and put this one over here and just kind of have it in like that. Okay, so now I have a different kind of triangle, and on your block note, it gives you an example of that. So again, on your block note for angles, I want you to go down to the types of triangles, and we're going to talk about three different types of triangles. The first one is called an obtuse triangle. And that kind of triangle is a triangle that has an angle that is bigger than 90 degrees. So I had just shown you an example of that. Okay, it's kind of hard to draw. Let me see my picture again. All right. Oops. So we're going to draw that just like that. Okay. And we're going to write that this angle is 101 degrees. This one here will be 45 degrees, and the other little inside one will be 34 degrees. And those are angles that I just gave you. I didn't measure them. I just gave you the angles. What makes this an obtuse triangle is the 101 degree angle. Since 101 is bigger than 90 degrees, that means that this triangle is an obtuse triangle. So I want you to write here that when you add up angle A plus angle B plus angle C. Now we need to label which one's which. Here's angle A, here's angle B, and there's angle C. When we add up angle A with angle B and angle C, we get a total of 180 degrees. Okay? So that means that no matter what kind of triangle it is, the sum of all angles inside a triangle is always 180 degrees. Okay. So for the next type of triangle, we have a right angle triangle. We've already started kind of working with right angle triangles by using the Pythagorean theorem, but Pythagorean theorem is only used to find sides. Now this theorem is used to find angles. So if I tell you it's a right angle triangle has a right angle. And a right angle will be shown to you by using that little square in the corner. As you should know, that little square represents that angle is 90 degrees. Let's just put the top one as 61 degrees. And we'll put the bottom one as 29 degrees. So you should be assuming by now that once I label my sides, we're going to try adding them up. So again, angle A plus angle B plus angle C should give us 180 degrees. So we're going to check that. Okay, so let's type that in. We have 90 degrees plus 61 degrees plus 29 degrees gives me 180 degrees. So I know that this is a triangle that I can build. As long as all three angles add up to 180, we can build a triangle. Okay, doesn't matter which angle you start with as long as you add them all up. Now it's the last type of triangle, which is called an isosceles triangle. An isosceles triangle is a triangle that has two sides that are equal. This is the toughest type of example I find, because sometimes they do this. They put 55 degrees here, and let's say they put 70 degrees here. We have angle A, angle B, and angle C. They won't write down what angle C is, but since the distance from A to B looks like it's the same as the distance from B to C because of those little lines, that means if those sides are the same, then the bottom angles are the same. So here we have angle A, which is 55 degrees, which also means that angle C will be 55 degrees. And that's a really important property to know from an isosceles triangle. So let's see if we add up these three angles, if it gives us 180. So I'm just going to take out my calculator again. And let's type it in. So 55 plus 70 plus 55, and it does give us 180, and it should. Okay, the key thing here is to know that when you add up all the inside angles inside a triangle, that it gives you 180 degrees. Now, that's a kind of an easy example, just knowing that anytime you add them all up, but sometimes they're not going to give you all three, and they're going to ask you for the missing one. So right down here in this box, we're just going to do an example together. So we can use the relationship to determine the third angle in a triangle when we know the other two angles. So let's start by drawing our triangle here. Okay, here's a normal, regular triangle. We won't know what kind of triangle it is until we put the angles in. And 36 degrees is given, and so is 46 degrees. So again, we don't really know what kind of triangle it is. We can't even assume that it's not a right angle triangle because we don't know what angle A is. I can't just add up angle B and C because it won't give me 180 degrees. And the whole point is to find angle A. So that's the instruction. And you have to show some work. You can't just start typing stuff in a calculator. So we know that angle A plus angle B plus angle C equals 180 degrees. So there's a couple different ways of doing this. If you add up the two angles that you're given, so angle A plus angle B plus angle C, we're going to add up 36 degrees, and then we're going to add up 46 degrees to that. So if we try that, it gives us 36 plus 46, which is 82 degrees. Now we need to find what angle A is. Well, we know the whole sum of all the angles inside the triangle is equal to 180. So you can think of, well, what plus 82 will give me 180? Or you can just subtract them. So 180 degrees minus 82 will give you a certain answer. If you try it, it will give you 98 degrees. So I'm just going to go ahead up here and fill in 98 degrees. You need a concluding statement, so therefore, angle A equals 98, and don't forget your units, which are degrees. You might want to test it out. So if I do test it out, I can try doing 98 plus 36 plus 46. So I'm just going to try that. 98 plus 36 plus 46. And we can now verify that our answer is correct because all three angles added up give me 180 degrees. Another way of doing this, so method 2, if you just want to kind of put it on the side, it doesn't really matter where you write it, as long as it's on your sheet. Method 2 is knowing that when you add up all three angles, that it gives you 180. So if you know that it's 180 and you're only given the two angles, so originally we were only given these two angles. If you, instead of adding and then subtracting, you can just take 180 and subtract the two that are given right away. If you do try this, you will get the answer 98 degrees right off the bat. So method 2 is slightly faster, but sometimes a little bit harder to remember. Before you start your practice questions, I want to do one more example with you, and I didn't put it in the block note, but we can just do it right now, and I'd just like you to kind of pay attention and not write anything down. So this is an example that will come up, like I told you, quite often. If you take a look at this triangle, you should know right away that it's not a right angle triangle, that it's not an obtuse triangle. Oh, wait, well, it could be an obtuse triangle. Actually, it is. But then more specifically, it's an isosceles triangle, which means there are two angles and two sides that are exactly the same. Now, we're not given any of the other two angles, which means we need to figure it out. So if we're doing method 1, it won't necessarily work because you can't add up just one angle. There's only one angle that is given. So method 1 is out. What we do need to do is know that the sum of the angles inside any triangle is equal to 180. So if we take that 180 and we subtract the 124 that is given, we're going to get a certain answer. So we're going to get 56 degrees. Now I want you to know that that 56 degrees is split up between angle D and angle F. That's not just one angle, that's both angles. So we need to do something to that 56 degrees to split it in two. So we're going to take that 56 degrees, divide it by 2, and we're going to get 28 degrees. So that's how you find a missing angle in an isosceles triangle. So it's just important to remember all the relationships inside a triangle, and this one specifically, adding all the angles up to give us 180 is what you want to be looking at. We want to kind of double check this just to make sure that this is correct. So if we just take the calculator and we add them all up for what we have up here, 124 plus 28 plus 28 does give me 180, so I know that I've done it properly. If you thought both were 156, both were 56, it would give you 236 degrees inside the triangle, which would be too much. And at that point, you'd have to think, okay, wait, I did something wrong. I need to go back and figure this out. So these examples are the ones that you need in order to do the practice questions. So I want you to take the time to do the practice questions properly and check your answers at the back of the book. Remember that you'll be working on page 77 for this work. So at the back of the book, you just have to go look for page 77 and page 78 in order to find the solutions.